This is rental car number 163, and today I'm driving the 2019 Nissan Leaf SV. This is an all-electric sedan, the top trim, and something I've been looking forward to for quite some time. Before we jump in, let me just give you a quick roadmap of what's ahead. So we'll take a full tour of the interior, and I'll even spend some time looking at this crazy gear shift this thing has. Then we'll take it out on the road and look at things like acceleration, handling, cabin noise, one-pedal driving, which is my new absolute favorite thing in the whole world. And then we'll close things out by taking this thing on the highway and getting up to high speeds, like 80, 90 miles an hour, and seeing how it really handles. There's timestamps below if you want to jump around. Otherwise, let's jump in. All right, so let me show you around the interior. Let's start with the key fob, super fast. Nissan's standard fob. This thing has been around forever. Oval shape, nothing on the back. Just 4 standard buttons on the front. Lock, unlock. Then you have to hold to release the fuel port, the charging port, I should say. And then a button down here to sound the panic alarm. So not super interesting, but effective. Push button start is located way down here on the dash. Not much sound when it boots up, but you do get a nice animation up here. It's hot today, so the AC is blasting. Let's start with the steering wheel and the setup here. You have a couple of buttons here on the left-hand side, volume rocker, and then directional keypad to control things in the gauge cluster up here. There's a nice size screen that I'll show you in a second. Track buttons, and then a back button as well right here. On the right-hand side, we have our cruise controls. This button right here will activate the driver assistance technology to help you mostly with parking, but also with driving. Then you have your voice assistant button right here and a button to answer and hang up phone calls. Let's try the voice assistant button. I haven't actually used it before.
You can interrupt voice prompts and speak a command immediately by pushing the talk switch. You can
tune radio to 91.5 FM.
Playing FM.
Most of us. And it's also...
It's not bad. I mean, I think these are really slow. That took, what, maybe 6-7 seconds when you could just reach over and press the volume button to turn the radio on. So that's my preference. But you do have a virtual assistant technology button right here. Nissan's logo right here in the center and a leather steering wheel, which is awfully nice. And it is a heated steering wheel. There's controls over here on the left-hand side if you want to activate that. Up in the gauge cluster, you have a large screen on the left-hand side, and then your speedometer over here on the right-hand side. The screen is pretty good size. Let me see if I can fish my cell phone out of my pocket so you can get kind of an idea. So standardized cell, right? We're looking at a screen that's probably a little bit bigger than a cell phone. Pretty crisp display and some nice colors. Down here on the bottom, you see what our charge is. We're at 91% and we have about 130 miles of range. See the odometer down here. This one only has about 3,000 miles on it. We are in park and we have both eco and e-pedal engaged. Actually, that's wrong. Eco is engaged. E-pedal is off. I'll show you e-pedal in a second, but essentially it just allows you to drive the car by only pushing and releasing the accelerator. You never have to touch the brake pedal. It's pretty cool. Here's the main screen, and you see there's a menu structure up here that just disappeared. You see how there's a couple of icons on the top, and I'm pressing the right and left buttons right here to cycle through them. So within the charge menu, battery capacity, we can also press up and down to cycle through a few screens. So we see the battery's capacity. We see power as we're driving. Charge time, if we were charging. And then the battery temperature as well. All right, so this is my long-winded way of saying that each screen has multiple menus within it, so you can see a bunch of information about the vehicle. None of this is groundbreaking, but it is nice to be able to cycle through a few screens. Also, 3 other things I want to mention. There is a clock at the top, outside temperature as well, and then if you're on a pretty popular road, the car will know the speed limit, and it'll display it in an icon right in the center of the display. 2 stalks, nothing real exciting on those, and then some additional controls over on the left-hand side on the dash, so you can pop open the fuel port. I keep calling it a fuel port. It's the charging port in the front of the vehicle. You can turn the timer on and off to charge the car. Then you have buttons up here to adjust the brightness of that gauge cluster up here, along with a trip reset counter, and then buttons for your heated steering wheel down below. Let's do a couple more things on the left-hand side. So window controls, door locks, and then your mirror control right here. side view mirrors do have blindside detection. Let me show you real quick. You see this little icon that's kind of etched into the window of the mirror? This will illuminate in a yellow color as someone is in your blind spot. And then if you turn your turn signal on, when someone's in your blind spot, it'll actually blink at you just to give you that little extra notice that you might crash if you change lanes at that particular moment. And then of course that technology is also available on the right-hand side as well. Up top, just a couple of controls. We have an SOS button in the middle. We also have controls to activate those reading lights, button to turn on all the lights at the same time, and then a button in the center to control when those lights will turn on. So do you want the lights to turn on when you open the doors or do you not? And then a sunglass holder right here with a nice felt lining. I gotta be honest, I never use these, but it's always nice to have, I guess, if it'll close. You have a rear view mirror with programmable garage door buttons right here, and then an auto dimmer feature on the right hand side that you can turn on or off. Down below there, we have our hazard button prominently up at the top, and then a small screen right here with a little bit of functionality, but not a ton. It is on the nav screen right now. You can see that it's almost smaller than the screen up here in the gauge cluster. Let me grab my cell again. So here's my cell. This is a Pixel 3a, and you can see that my cell's screen is almost as big as this screen, just to give you a little bit of a size comparison. So I've hit the menu button on the left-hand side because there are dedicated buttons both on the left and right, and this is the standard home screen where you can interact with the features. And there's also a dedicated menu down here on the bottom, so you can switch to audio, phone, info, your main menu, map, nav, and settings. I'm not blown away by this. I don't know if you are. Not super bright colors, and I mean, not a lot of functionality. I mean, it's nice to be able to find a charging station using this system and to see your energy use while you're driving the vehicle or historically on the car for your past experiences. And you know, you have a climate control settings screen right here, which I guess is fine, but you know, you got plenty of climate controls down here. No apps on here that I think are worth mentioning, although you do have Bluetooth connectivity. I have never had problems connecting my cell to Bluetooth on a Nissan. Works fine, and I gotta be honest, that's primarily what I do, right? I'm gonna connect my phone to this screen and then control things by tapping on my cell. But maybe you have a different preference. If you do, just know this is functional, but not fun, in my opinion. And then you have a button right here where you can activate the cameras to see behind the vehicle. And then you have this top-down view right here. Now, obviously, we don't have a drone floating on top of us filming down on the vehicle. This is just a composite. There's cameras all around the vehicle, and the computer is stitching them together to give us an overhead view of the vehicle. And I gotta say, this is super, super helpful when you're trying to park in a tight spot. You can see all around the vehicle simultaneously, and you can just watch yourself pull the vehicle backwards. We're in a parking lot right now, and you can clearly see the parking spaces that I have parked double, maybe triple parked in very clearly. And when you're backing up, that display is pretty awesome. Actually, let me move the vehicle and I'll show you real quick. All right, so I pull forward just a little bit. If you look out, you can see that there's a median right here with some nice weeds growing. Let's pretend I'm a horrible driver and that parking in this space without any cars is difficult for me. I'm gonna pull forward and just watch the screen. You'll see that median come into view in a second. See it right there? And then you can see where it is as I pull forward and park. Isn't that pretty neat? I mean, you can see right along the edge of the vehicle. You can even see the weeds that are growing in the ground, and then those wood chips over there. And then if I show you for real, there it is. So, you know, not super useful if you're pulling into an easy spot, but when you're trying to get into someplace tight, I really like this quite a bit. And it comes up automatically when you hit that camera button or when you shift the vehicle into reverse. And I'll show you this funky gear shift in just a second. So that's what I would consider the important stuff on the center screen. Do look at the resolution though. I mean, it is, can you see, it's a little bit grainy. Here's some trees that are out behind us, and I don't know. It's hard to make them out. I've been in vehicles in a similar price point where the resolution is just a lot crisper. For a backup camera, I mean, I honestly don't care, but I just want to point out that this is probably not the best quality on the market right now. And then you do get those guides. So you see these green lines right here? Those show you where you're going to move the vehicle. So you see how I'm pulling forward and those guides are changing so that we can kind of line ourselves up perfectly for that parking spot. See how they line up and show you exactly where you're going? I'm in drive right now. If I put it into reverse, there's the behind the vehicle shot, and then you have that same guide right there. See that orange line to help guide us into that parking space? And then of course you have that overhead view right there. I know that I'm kind of being long-winded about this, but speaking from someone who's coming from a vehicle that doesn't have anything like this, it's just a really nice feature to have, and something I find myself using quite a bit while I've been driving around in this vehicle. All right, let's move on from the touchscreen. So basic touchscreen, some functionality, but not super fun. Climate controls down below there. So nice size controls, easy to use buttons, and when you do shift things, you do get a pop-up in that center display to show you exactly what temperature you're setting the vehicle. I am literally sweating right now, so we're gonna put it at the lowest possible setting. Decent climate controls. Below there you have some additional controls. Here is your push button start, USB, auxiliary out, and then you have heated seats for both yourself and your passenger, and then a DC power port right there, and a nice size area right here that's pretty much perfect for a cell phone. This is pretty important to me. I love having a nice place to keep my cell because, you know, when I'm driving, it's always going to be there. So I like seeing this. It's nice to have a good size storage space right here. Then we have our eco button right here to increase our fuel efficiency. The e-pedal control right here. That's their term for it. I call it one pedal driving, meaning that all you have to do is use the accelerator pedal to drive around, and rarely do you have to touch that brake pedal. So right now I'm driving through this parking lot and I'm pushing down lightly on the accelerator. When I lift my foot off the accelerator, it's going to slowly bring the car to a dead stop. And use the regenerative braking on the electric motor to generate more power and bring the vehicle to a dead standstill. It's actually quite fun. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but especially in stop and go traffic, it's pretty amazing because you don't have to shift your foot back and forth from the pedal to the brake, from the pedal to the brake. Really all you're doing is lightly pressing down on that accelerator to go forward and then lightly lifting your foot up to bring the car to a stop. So again, if you got to stop abruptly because it's a red light, you are going to have to use that brake pedal. But in normal daily driving, I'd say on this vehicle about 60–70% of the time I can use just the pedal if I have e-pedal engaged, and it's a fun feature to use. All right, now let's look at this funky gear shift. So it's this dial, it's plastic, it's got kind of a blue reflective surface right here on the edge. You got a button on the top if you want to go into park, and then you got to shift the gears using this this model right here to get where you want to go. So sideways and up to get it into reverse, sideways to put it into neutral, sideways and down to put it into drive. So I've been driving this thing for not too long and I'm already pretty much used to this. It works really well. It just takes, you know, a couple of tries to get used to it. Behind there we have our electronic parking brake, pretty easy to use. Pull up to activate that parking brake, push it down to deactivate. There we go. It didn't deactivate because I didn't have my foot on the brake pedal. All right, let's do a quick experiment with the electronic parking brake. On about half of vehicles, when you shift it into drive, the electronic parking brake is automatically going to disengage. I'm not actually sure what happens on this vehicle, so let's try it out. So I got, you see the red light, the electronic parking brake engaged. Let's go over and down, shift it into drive, and then let's try to move forward. No. If you look up in the gauge cluster, you see park is still illuminated, so it will not automatically disengage. So you have to push that brake pedal down and then push down to deactivate the parking brake. All right, worth knowing. 2 small cup holders next to that. I've got some sparkling water right now. A pretty small armrest, right? You can see my hand completely encases it. And then underneath, if you press this little button right here, you have a pretty small storage area with a rubber lining in the bottom. No power ports or anything in there at all. Just you know, a small place to keep some change. Let's see if a standard cell phone fits inside. It does. So, all right, pretty functional. All right, so I jumped in the passenger seat. Just for reference, I have the passenger seat and the driver's seat pushed back about the same distance. And I'm gotta be honest, I'm feeling a little cramped. I'm 6 feet tall. I mean, I have room. There's about, what, 4 inches between my knees and that dash. But I'm definitely feeling a little bit cramped. Let me incline a little bit. I don't know why there's such a dramatic difference between the driver's seat and the passenger seat. I think it's because I'm much higher up and the controls don't allow me to lower the seat at all. But, you know, I fit and it's fairly comfortable over here. Not a whole lot of amenities for your passenger, the same ones for the driver. Sometimes there's some additional features tucked down here, but not on this vehicle. I mean, you got yourself a cup holder down here on the door, window controls, door locks, latch, all the standard stuff. And then there's a glove box right here by my knees. Pretty small, actually. Oh, but it has some depth to it. So you'll definitely be able to get your owner's manual, registration materials, all that stuff in here with no problem, but probably nothing extra. All right, so I jumped in the back seat. First off, this is not comfortable at all. I have that passenger seat pushed back, you know, the same distance as the driver's seat. This is the setting that I had it when I was up front, and I have no leg room. Literally, there's no room between my knees and the back of that seat. Also, I don't have a whole lot of headroom. Let me show you real quick. So you see my head is actually touching the ceiling, the roof. It curves down pretty dramatically right here on the side, and my head is pushing against the top. So I'm kind of having to do a little bit of a turtleneck to fit back here. And I'm not liking it very much at all. So I had stopped filming and was going to move on, but I can't let this go. This is really uncomfortable. Look at my feet, first of all. So, I mean, there's not even enough room here for me to put my feet forward, so it has to be underneath the seat itself, which I guess whatever. But then this headroom, I really gotta stress this. I can't, here's me putting my head on the headrest. You see, like, my hat is hitting the roof, and then the side of my head is also pushing against this felt right here on the roof. Honestly, I feel like I'm in some sort of coffin. I'm like squeezed in. This is not a tiny hatchback. This is a, you know, a sedan. I should be able to fit back here without being this uncomfortable. There are a little bit of amenities back here. So you do have pockets on the back of both seats, and this is a pretty nice and soft leather. So all in all, I'm pretty impressed with that. You have, you know, standard stuff, window controls, door latch, door lock, up top, got a handle. No coat hook or anything hidden anywhere. That's a little disappointing, but still, you got your handle. And then, of course, that same exact setup on the other side as well. Down on the back of the armrests for the front seat passengers, no vents, no power ports of any kind. Interestingly, you have a little bit of a bump right here. See, it comes up. Usually this is a flat floor on most vehicles. A little bit of an indentation right here with a plastic top right here. Which limits a little bit of your leg room, but I'm guessing this has to do with where the battery pack is situated. And then on the seats itself, you do not have a center armrest that folds down. This is just a seat itself. I would note, though, that I really do like the blue accented stitching on this vehicle, and then you also have felt in the center. It's a nice look. Let's look at car seat anchors, too. So here is that icon, and then the car seat anchor should be right here. Now you can see that the car seat anchor is not exposed on its own, so you do have to kind of manipulate the seats. And then it's right back here. I don't even know if I can film it. So probably, what, 1 or 2 knuckles in. So it's going to be obviously possible to install a car seat back here, but it's not going to be as easy as on other models. So just keep that in mind. So if you're someone who needs to take a car seat in and out a lot, I might look for something else, because this is going to be a big pain in the butt. All right, I've switched over to voiceover. I'm doing this slightly out of order, but let's open up the hood and take a look underneath. Now, not every electric has a hood. Some of these have storage areas up front, not the Leaf. There's actually the engine up front. It's a 1-speed direct drive transmission, and you get some decent horsepower with this one. 147 horsepower at 3282 RPM, so that's where that speed comes from. Range is 150 miles on this one, which isn't too bad. Really what you need to consider is charging time. So level 1 is a standard plug in your house. If you use that, you're going to get about 4 miles of range per hour of charging, so it's going to take you about 37 hours to charge this thing up from 0.
Level 2, you're going to see those either installed in homes or you're going to see them in hotels, office parks, things like that. That's a little bit faster, 6 hours for a full charge there. You're going to get about 25 miles of charge per hour of charging. You also might have seen superchargers around for Teslas, but this car is not wired to accept that level of charge. So you're not going to be able to use those if you buy a Nissan Leaf. In my experience, driving electrics for the last couple of months and reviewing them, range is not really an issue as long as you plan a little bit ahead. And if you're going to go on a super long road trip, you'll probably want to take a gas-powered car if you have access to one. All right, let's take a look at storage real quick. This is a kind of like a hatchback-like car. In the back, you have a pretty decent storage space that should take care of your odds and ends, groceries, strollers, golf clubs, the works, without any problems at all. Unfortunately, there is nothing underneath the floor of this area, so there's no additional storage. It's just extra flooring down there. But if you take away the privacy screen, it is pretty easy to fold down those rear seats just by pulling up on these pins. The seats fold pretty flat, and then you have access to a lot more room if you need it. So storage on this one is not an issue.
So the first thing I noticed when I jumped behind the wheel of this car is how loose the handling is. I just want to be up front. I prefer really tight handling on cars. I like it when you have to give it a little bit of muscle to make the vehicle turn. With this one, it seems like you get quite a bit of flex, so you can really manipulate that steering wheel quite a bit before the car is actually going to turn. And for me, it makes me feel a little bit less comfortable. I feel like I don't have as much control over the turns as I would like. Now, I gotta be clear, I'm being extremely critical. It's not like this car can't be driven, and can't be driven well. It's actually very pleasant. It's just not my preference, so I want to put it out there. Also, when I'm driving cars down this street, what I like to play around with is the ability to hug the corner, hug that edge right there between the blacktop and the curb. On the ones I enjoy driving, I can do that almost effortlessly. With this one, I'm finding it a little bit challenging. The steering is so loose that it takes a lot more effort to be able to hug that crease, and I find myself drifting out of the lane quite often. Now, in all fairness, if I drove this car for maybe, a couple of months, I'm sure I would get much better at it. But just my initial driving experience, it's not quite what I wanted. So one of the most fun things about electric cars is the acceleration. Let's try out the acceleration on the Leaf. So I'm at a dead stop. Are you ready for this? 3, 2, 1. 20, 30, 40, 50. Whew, that was smooth. Pretty quick too. I mean, not the fastest car I've ever driven, but I don't know, that's kind of fun. That was the lane departure assistant buzzing at us. I was drifting out of my lane a little bit. Watch, let me do it again. It's what I would consider nanny technology. Like, I like it, but sometimes it feels a bit like nagging when I'm trying to do some more aggressive driving. Anyway, let's get back to acceleration. I'm gonna do one more from a dead stop, and then I also want to play around with acceleration while we're moving to see how responsive the vehicle is. I have a feeling it's going to be really nice. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. I'm flooring it. We're already at 20, 30. And we're at 40. Do you see that? We didn't even get to the turn before we got all the way up to 40 miles an hour. That is nice. I'm gonna take it on a highway in a second and we can get it up way past 40. But for now, I just want to say the acceleration is pretty fun. And you know what? I just noticed we are actually in eco mode. So that was one of the slower settings of the vehicle, actually the slowest setting. So let me get up here, do a U-turn, and let's do one in what I would consider to be regular driving mode. Unfortunately, there is no sport mode on this vehicle. Dead stop. 3, 2, 1. 20, 30, 40, 50. Whew! That is nice. For like what's considered basically a family car, that's a pretty decent pickup. It's kind of fun to drive. You feel like the speed is pulling you back into the seat, and I kind of have to like clench my abs a little bit because it's so fast. It's pretty fun. All right, so let's keep playing with acceleration. Now what I want to test out is when we're already moving, so we're actually going 35 right now, how fast can the car lurch forward when I slam on the pedal? Oh, I am turning that off. That is so annoying. All right, the nanny technology has been turned off. So let me pull an illegal U-turn right here. Thankfully, this is an office park that no one uses during the weekend. And let's play around a little bit more. So I'm gonna get it up to 30. All right, now when we get around this corner, I'm gonna slam down on the accelerator and let's see how fast the car responds. All right, 3, 2, 1, woo! So it is almost instant acceleration. Let me do it one more time. Slow down a little bit, get around this corner, and I'm gonna slam on the accelerator pedal. 3, 2, 1, whoa! So you mean you push down, I don't know, I'm giving it about a couple of inches, and man, you just lurch forward instantly. It's quite fun, actually. Much more responsive than a gas-powered engine. Even like on the higher end sports cars that I've driven, even those, there's a couple of heartbeats from when you hit that pedal until you actually burst forward with speed. On this one, it is instantaneous, and I don't know, it's pretty fun. Gotta say, I'm kind of addicted to driving these electric cars. It's such a different driving experience than I'm used to. All right, one other thing I want to look at is cabin noise. With the benefit of the electric car is that, you know, you don't have that rumbling of the engine, so that takes away quite a bit from the cabin noise. So really on this one, all you have is a little bit of road noise and then some of that wind going over the top of the vehicle. So let me be quiet for a second so you can just get a quick sense for it. It's not bad, right? Let me turn on the radio.
I had felt like that I had been feeling a little bit, and here she is standing.
So that's at about a quarter of the way to max volume, and I mean, I don't know if you could hear on your device, but here in the car, it's pretty clear. I could hear what the guy was saying pretty easily, even with that little bit of road noise. So cabin noise at this speed, say like normal suburban speeds, is I mean, it's top notch. What I want to do now is jump on the highway and play around with, you know, acceleration and handling at higher speeds. There's that nanny technology again. And then also kind of experience cabin noise a little bit at a higher speed and see, you know, if things deteriorate quite a bit when we get up to like 80 miles an hour. All right, so we're gonna go through this toll. I'm gonna do something a little bit illegal. I'm gonna bring us to a dead stop. Hopefully there's no police around. And then let's really test that acceleration on this thing. Thankfully there's no one behind us. So I'm pushing down on that brake pedal. All right, you ready for this? 3, 2, 1. Oh, I'm flooring it. Whoa, there goes my toll pass. We're already at 40. Here comes 50, 60, 70. We're still going smooth. 80. Woo! That was smooth. I love how silent it is too. You didn't feel like the gears were shifting, you know, that you didn't get any of that. It's just a smooth whine all the way up, all the way to 80. It's pretty nice. All right, so now that we're going a little bit faster, let's try out a little bit of handling. So what I'm gonna do is change lanes real quick. Doesn't feel too bad. I feel like I'm in pretty good control. Let's do that again. So we're going 75 right now, and honestly, changing lanes is no big deal. Let me slow down a little bit. There's someone behind me, so I'm not gonna be too much of a jerk. Let's let this car go by. All right, so we're at 65. Let me slam down on the accelerator. 70, 75, 80, 85. So you still do get that sudden burst of speed if you need it. It's not quite as exhilarating as when you're going at lower speeds and you just blast forward. But even at this speed, that electric motor is extremely responsive. So acceleration and handling, pretty good at this speed. The thing I am noticing that's a big difference is cabin noise. So let me be quiet for a second just so you can get a sense of it. So you can definitely hear the wind going over the car. It's pretty apparent. I'm having to raise my voice a little bit. And you can easily hear the cars around us, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm just pointing out that this isn't the quietest vehicle on the road. Last test, let me turn on the radio again. I'll keep it at the same volume as before, and let's see if we can hear what's being said over the radio. Yeah, I gotta be honest, I don't know about you, but I'm having a really hard time understanding what's being said, so there we go.
There's never been.
So at lower speeds, I could keep the volume at about, I'd say 25%, but at this speed, we're going 75. I had to increase it to at least 50 to 60% before I could hear it. Maybe that's just my old man ears, but I just want to keep that in mind. I mean, if you are like me, you do a lot of commuting, listen to a lot of audiobooks and podcasts, you are going to have to increase the volume pretty substantially in order to be able to hear what's being said. Overall, though, the handling at this speed is pretty decent. All right, so since we're on the highway, the last piece of technology I want to play around with is cruise control and the adaptive cruise settings, and then also the lane departure assistant technology as well. So that button is on the right hand side of the steering wheel. It's kind of got a blue icon on it. What we're going to do is we're going to turn on cruise control, and I'm going to set it at a max distance and see what the car does. So I've set the cruise at 61 miles an hour. So with adaptive cruise, what it's going to do is use sonar to detect the car in front of me, that maroonish SUV, and it's going to keep the same distance behind that car. So if that car slows down, we're going to slow down to match it. If that car speeds up, we're going to speed up to our maximum cruise setting of 61 miles an hour. It's a little slow right now, so I'm going to speed up and then set our cruise a little bit higher. So let's set it at 70. 68 actually. So Nissan also has lane departure assistant technology. So watch, it's keeping the car pretty center in this lane, and then it's actually turning for me, right? So we're actually moving over a little bit. So it's not perfect. So it definitely can't do an on-ramp or an off-ramp for you, where you're doing a big wide turn. But gentle curves on the interstate, it can handle with no problem, which is actually kind of fun. So let me set it one more time, just so you can get a sense for it. Now, what you're going to see on the dash is a steering wheel lit up to show you that technology has been turned on. So we have adaptive cruise, keeping a distance from that vehicle ahead of us, and then it's actually going to steer for us by sensing the lines in the road and then making those small turns for us. It's beeping at me right now because you can't just take your hands off the steering wheel indefinitely. I'd say after about 20 seconds or so, it's going to ask you to put your hands back on and just give it a tiny bit of feedback. But all in all, it's really nice that the car can do some basic driving for you. I find this most useful on long road trips where I'm driving for maybe an hour or two on a road like this that isn't that interesting, and I can just kind of let the car maintain a safe distance of the vehicle ahead of me and do those gentle curves for me, which is really nice. One word of warning though, it only works on a road like this. You see how well defined these white lines are? They're almost brand new. If you're on a road that needs a little bit of work and those white lines have faded to the point where they're really hard to see, well, then this technology is going to struggle and probably not going to work out very well for you.
All right, so that's pretty much everything end to end on the 2019 Nissan Leaf SV. Man, I had fun driving this one, but I don't know if this is the perfect EV. So with that being said, I'm going to give this one 3 stars. It's a lot of fun to drive. Acceleration is great. Not so happy with handling. I really wish that Nissan would tighten that up a little bit. And honestly, my biggest criticism of this vehicle is the technology. For an EV, I want this thing to be, tech savvy, top of the line kind of thing. And the center display has a lot to be desired about it, and then the gauge cluster screen it's just not exciting. So if Nissan would give this a refresh, I think I'd really reconsider my review. But anyway, that's just my thoughts. If you think differently, or if you think I missed something important, please leave me a comment below. I would love to hear from you. Otherwise, that's it for now, and I hope you join me next time when I'm back renting and reviewing another rental car. I'll see you then.